is here, and our reporters are scattered throughout the region to bring you all the glory. Get ready for a jam-packed 30 minutes, because Gridiron Glory starts right now.
The 7-4-0 area was on fire with some heated battles tonight. Moving forward, we'll hear all about tonight's matchups and what's happening around the region. So buckle up and join us for this crazy ride. But first, looking back, it was an insane week 3. So before we dive into the action this week, let's hit the rewind button and look from the stars from 7 days ago. Best performances from week 3, these players went above and beyond last Friday and all led their teams to victory. We start with Penn Morrison, who got it done in a variety of ways, rushing, receiving, and on defense. This Waverly Tiger did it all to lead his team to a blowout victory. We have a familiar name in Sheridan's Jason Munyon. He had 4 touchdowns in the first half alone against Logan on Friday night. We expect the senior to be in contention for Gridiron Glory Player of the Year this season. And now we stay on the ground with another stud running back. This one is from the Licking County League. Devin Haley ran all over Eastmore to keep the Blue Aces unbeaten. Granville has now scored 50 or more points in 2 of the first 3 games of the season. Haley is just one of many explosive pieces on this Granville offense. Finally, we have the hero from Washington Courthouse. The Blue Lions were down big, and in comes Riley Haithcock off the bench. Down 29-10 in the fourth quarter, Haithcock, with help from his little brother Isaiah, led Washington Courthouse to a dramatic come-from-behind victory. Now to start the coverage this week, we have Carl Blaylock that was at Nelsonville tonight. How these teams fare tonight?
Well, Nick, the Buckeyes started out slow but found their footing as the game progressed. Nelsonville-York in special camo uniforms for tonight's game, and the Buckeyes wasted no time putting them in the end zone as Tommy Mitchell ran it in from 1 yard, 7-0 Buckeyes. Later in the first, after a muffed punt by NY, River Valley was stuffed on 4 straight plays and were unable to convert in the Buckeye red zone, and the Buckeye offense made them pay. Tommy Mitchell finds the outside and weaves between 2 Raider defenders into the end zone. Touchdown, 14-0 Buckeyes. Next drive, Drew Carter airs it out to the freshman Landon Inman, who takes it the rest of the way into the end zone for the touchdown, and the Buckeyes began the throttling. The final nail in the coffin for the Raiders was this touchdown pass from Carter to Inman as the Buckeyes roll 48-13.
And now, what gave Nelsonville-York the edge in the second quarter?
Nelsonville-York was able to gain a huge lead in part because of their defense coming up clutch in big situations. After NY muffed a punt in the first quarter, their defense stepped up to force a 4-and-out. The Buckeyes' offense then used that momentum to propel them to a touchdown to make it 14-0. After the muffed punt, River Valley was able to drive deep into Nelsonville-York territory thanks to a broken play turned long run. From there, the Buckeyes defense stepped up big and forced a change of possession where Drew Carter made the Raiders defense pay as he found an open lane for the long touchdown run.
How did NY's special teams look tonight?
The Buckeyes special teams had room for improvement as they muffed a punt. However, the stifling defense allowed the Bucks to keep rolling in this one. But if it continues, NY could run into trouble in more competitive games. Their tough non-conference schedule showed some cracks in the Buckeyes' shield, but they look poised to compete for a conference championship based on their play tonight. Even though this is Nelsonville-York's first win of the season, if the defense continues to play like this, they could start a win streak.
Sounds like the Buckeyes are figuring things out at the right time. Thanks, Carl. Very rarely do Division I powerhouses come to Southeast Ohio, but the Ironton Fighting Tigers were up for the challenge of welcoming one of Ohio's most historic programs, the Archbishop Moeller Crusaders. Moeller has won 2 state titles in the past decade and came in tonight's battle unbeaten. But like we said, Ironton was not going to go down without a fight. They come to tonight's matchup excited for the spotlight to once again be on them. Ironton gets a big gain as their offensive line opens up a huge hole to get them into Moeller territory. But unfortunately, that's when Moeller started to flex their muscles on the defensive end. Moeller then takes control of the ball, and Van George drops back to pass and finds number 10, Tennell Bryant, for the first score of the game. Moeller would extend their lead in the first half when George goes deep and finds Bryant once again. That makes it 14-0, and that's the score as both teams would go into the locker room. Unfortunately, Ironton couldn't come back in the second half and fall 25-7 in their biggest challenge of the season. They continue conference play next Friday when South Point hosts the Fighting Tigers. The Alexander Spartans are looking to extend their win streak to 3 straight games as they travel to face the Athens Bulldogs. I have Curtis Fader alongside me to break down all the action.
Thanks, Nick. Now, Alexander had plenty to play for tonight, but Athens was looking for that first elusive win of the season, and both teams were ready to give it their all, so let's roll the tape. The Bulldogs came out of the locker room showing that hunger from the kickoff. Pick it up mid-first quarter, quarterback Landon Wheatley floats the ball to the secondary to Alex Pirro for 6 to open up their scoring tally. After forcing a bad Alexander punt, Athens capitalized on their good field position as Wheatley connects with Levi Neal for another passing touchdown to put the Bulldogs up 14. The Athens defense held up their end of the bargain as the Spartans struggled to get anything going on offense. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs offense was sizzling hot, torturing Alexander's defense. Midway through the second quarter, Wheatley notches his 3rd touchdown pass of the half, this time to Braxton Springer. Athens scored 27 unanswered points to start the game, and things began to get ugly as Landon Hornsby of the Spartans got ejected after a post-play skirmish. Athens put the pedal to the metal, and Alexander could not slow them down as the Bulldogs ran away with this one, winning it 41-14.
Wow, a huge weight lifted off their shoulder. Why don't you take us through how Athens got it done tonight?
Say no more, Nick. The first thing that the Bulldogs did successfully was to win the battle of the field position. Alexander was constantly having to start inside their own 20-yard line, and they could not move the chains to put decent drives together. They also lacked some cohesiveness on the sidelines, with commands from coaches being missed and having sometimes less than 11 men on the field.
Athens exploded on offense, scoring 34 first-half points. Who were some of the X factors for the Bulldogs that contribute to this blowout?
Well, when you said X factor, 2 players popped into my head instantly. Junior quarterback Landon Wheatley had a sensational performance in the air and on the ground. His aerial assault in the first half helped Athens win this game tenfold. He finished this game with 3 touchdowns and 214 yards while only missing 2 throws the entire game. The other X factor was the run game led by Luke Brandes. He was always moving the chains and getting the job done, making the defense honor the rush. Brandes' efforts were rewarded tonight as well, with him finishing with 79 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing, making him another key reason why the clock was constantly running mercy rule style. Well, they will travel next week to play the Vinton County Vikings to build on their momentum.
Excellent analysis as always. Thank you, Curtis. For our game of the week, we traveled out to Granville as they took on the Heath Bulldogs just down the road. Both teams brought out insane student sections. Here are the scenes from Granville. And we talked to Heath head coach Tim Ward before the matchup between the 2 unbeaten programs. Here's what he had to say about the rivalry.
I'm excited. Granville's a game that we haven't played since 2016. We played them for 54 straight years. They were a huge rival of ours when I was in school. And then after the 2016 season, we haven't had a chance to play them. So first of all, our guys are just ready to play. We're ready to play Granville. We're ready to get them back on the schedule. It's a good rivalry. They're going to be a disciplined team, a fast team. They're extremely skilled. Their quarterback is as good as you'll see.
You can hear how excited Coach Ward is about this rivalry being renewed and what we are waiting for. Let's roll the game highlights. Coach Ward and the Bulldogs going deep early, but their receiver stumbles and allows the Blue Aces to make an easy interception. Heath gets the ball back, and they break out for a big game down the sideline, but penalties would keep the game scored at even at 0. Until Granville's Devin Haley finds the end zone to make it 8-0. Blue Aces keeping the momentum with another interception. Their defense really stepped up tonight. Carson Crouch will go deep, but the Bulldogs will make a great play on the football and keep the score at 8-0. Granville would score just before halftime as it's Haley again for the Blue Aces. He does it time and time again, and he will keep the Granville unbeaten. Blue Aces win 21-12 and roll into Week 5 against Johnstown as they try to keep their perfect season alive. Now, as teams have had multiple home and away games, one team has had to ride the bus more than others. Alex Porter has more on Crooksville's current situation.
Every sports team has dealt with adversity in the last 2 years, but for the Crooksville Ceramics, the term has taken on a whole new definition. Prior to the start of the 2021 season, electrical issues around the stadium prevented Crooksville's home stadium, Village Park, from hosting any games. No power could be sent to the stadium lights, press box, or concession stands. The result was Crooksville Superintendent Kevin Smith announcing the Ceramics wouldn't host a home game this year. It's been a difficult stretch for head coach Casey Valley and his team. Perhaps one of the biggest challenges is the traveling.
As far as the traveling, it's just every week, long trips too. The first four weeks for us are, all 4 was over-hour trips.
But the difficulties don't stop there.
We only have 5 seniors. We're a young group. They've dealt with a lot of adversity, as we was talking earlier. It started last year with COVID, only getting to play 8 games.
Along with the issues of the stadium, the Ceramics are dealing with losses of special community members, but they have found a way to commemorate those special people.
In November, we lost assistant head coach Greg Williams to COVID. We lost another faculty member about 3 months later, and then another one, 3 months. So, in this small town, we lost 3 very important people out of the school.
The losses of the 3 Crooksville faculty members was difficult, but Valley found a way to keep their memory alive. Every ceramic player wears a sticker on the back of their helmet with the initials of those that passed away.
We lost, 3 very good people, wearing stickers in memory and honor of them.
Despite the continuous difficulties for the Ceramics, linebacker Austin Love has hope for the rest of the season and a message to the Crooksville student body looking to make the travel for the team's games.
I feel like we'd play a lot better if they'd come. If we had a big student section, I feel like we'd go all out. I wouldn't guarantee a win, but it's going to be a close game.
Reporting for Gridiron Glory, I'm Alex Porter.
Now we head over to Paul Kerrville Jr. Stadium. Reporter Alex Porter witnessed the first MVL matchup of the season between John Glenn and Sheridan. Went south quick. Alex, talk us through it.
What anticipated to be a good game went south quick. The Generals came to the game winning their first 3 games of the season. As for the Little Muskies, they've only won 1. The headline for this game was a matchup of running backs, Jason Munyon versus Noah Wellmeyer. This Week 4 matchup had a lot stacked up in Sheridan's favor, but John Glenn woke up on the right side of the bed this morning. After Sheridan punted on their first possession of the game, John Glenn answered. It was only 3 plays until Colt Emerson pulls in this 54-yard cannon from Brad Morgan for the first score of the game. You'll be hearing his name a lot this season because Noah Wellmeyer was an animal on the field. Little Muskie's second drive was capped off by Wellmeyer from 15 yards out. 14-0 John Glenn after the first quarter. Then into the second quarter, we possibly have the catch of the year. Blade Barclay gets the extension into the end zone. The Little Muskies just kept on rolling. Noah Wellmeyer once again pulls out his do-it-all kit for this 54-yard touchdown reception. The Little Muskies led Sheridan 35-0 at the half and went on to win big 49-0.
What a final score. That was not expected headed into this one.
Yeah, Nick, it caught a lot of people by surprise, even myself. And as I said last week, Sheridan has been dealing with a lot of adversities, and it showed in this game.
Okay, you keep talking about these adversities for Sheridan. What was it today?
I mentioned last week that starting quarterback Reed Packer had hurt himself in the game against Logan. Well, that carried into this week. His Packer dressed, but he didn't play at all. On top of that, head coach Paul Culver III wasn't on the sidelines. So having both your head coach and starting quarterback out isn't a recipe for success.
Well, by looking at that final score, John Glenn was the team that did have the recipe. Maybe even that secret sauce. How was John Glenn able to dominate this one?
The Little Muskies dominated once they walked onto the field. So dominant, in fact, Sheridan punted on every single possession of the game. In the first half, Sheridan got past the 50-yard line once. Now, clearly, the John Glenn defense was on point, but the offense was a Swiss Army knife. I already talked about Noah Wellmeyer, but there was some more dogs on that side of the ball. Brad Morgan, Blade Barclay, and Colt Emerson all had huge contributions to the game, whether it was throwing the pigskin for a touchdown or hauling him in. Just overall, a complete game for the John Glenn Little Muskies, and probably by far their best game of this young season.
What a shakeup you saw tonight in Thornville, Alex. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the MVL season plays out. Get home safe to Athens. Have you enjoyed what you've seen so far? Well, if you do, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook to see all of our post-game recaps. But wait, we have more. Give our Instagram and TikTok some love for additional clicks and flicks. Have anything you wanted to share? Tweet at me at GGHostNick on Twitter, and you might make it on the show next week. A pair of 2-1 teams meet in Baltimore. Both Amanda-Clearcreek and Liberty Union were seeking their first mid-state league win of the season. Brian Kerp caught all the action now. The Aces were looking for revenge tonight, weren't they? Brian, can you hear me?
Out of the playoffs a year ago. Yep, I can hear you too, Nick. But again, the Lions are looking to defend home field once again, and it was homecoming for Liberty Union tonight. The Lions were hoping to keep the festivities going with another win over the Aces. Amanda-Clearcreek got off to a quick start, though. After forcing a 3-and-out, Hunter Matheny punches it through the defense and into the end zone for 6 points. The Aces grab the early 7-0 advantage. They force another 3-and-out. Now it's Nate Hunter throwing a perfect spiral and connects with Cade Young for a quick 28-yard strike. 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. It looked like this one was getting out of hand early, but the Lions offense finally put a nice drive together in a second. Braden Schreier takes a direct snap and prances into the end zone untouched. Liberty Union on the board, and it was a 7-point game at the half. The teams came out and traded field goals in the third. Now late in the third, it's the Hunter Young Express again. Young breaks free and takes it all the way down into the red zone. That set up another field goal. Amanda-Clearcreek is going home this time with a 20-10 victory.
The Aces getting big-time revenge on the Lions for sure. Who was the biggest catalyst for Amanda-Clearcreek tonight?
Yeah, Nick. While the Aces may have found the end zone twice in this one, it was quarterback Nate Hunter's play throughout the night that made a huge difference. Hunter was on spot all throughout the first 2 drives. He completed most of his pass attempts that moved the Aces down the field, leading to those 2 early scores. He also made some difficult throws throughout the night that were getting caught. In general, the first half was extremely pass-heavy for both teams. The Aces and Lions combined for 266 passing yards. Jack Brown had a pretty good night for the Lions as well. After a slow first quarter, Brown really warmed up and led some good drives. Liberty Union could not find pay dirt after that second quarter score.
This seemed like a solid defensive night for the Aces as they only allowed that 1 touchdown.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Aces defense bended at times but did not break. Brown had heat in his kitchen all night with Aces chasing him around in the backfield. Amanda-Clearcreek's defense excelled so far this season when it comes to limiting points. The most points the Aces allowed this season was 14, and that was in their week 3 loss.
A solid defense keeping opponent point totals low. That kind of reminds us of another team in the Mid-State League.
That's right, Nick. The Bloom Carroll Bulldogs, they had another great defensive night, and it will be exciting. Guess what? These 2 teams, Amanda-Clearcreek and Bloom Carroll, play each other next week. It's going to be a battle between 2 of the best defensive units in the Mid-State League.
It should be a fun to see how the Aces and the Bulldogs battle it out 1 week from tonight. Have a safe trip back to Athens, Brian and Alex. We now head to the Ohio Capital Conference where the Lancaster Golden Gales took on the new Albany Eagles. I'm now here joined by Joe Collins. How did they fare this week?
Well, the Golden Gales would have their work cut out for them Friday night as they welcome one of the top teams in their very talented conference. The Golden Gales come into this game with a lot of confidence after getting victory number 1 last week, but the Eagles come in undefeated, and so after forcing a 3-and-out, it's Christian Manville who gets the handoff, and he's going to shake off a would-be tackler, and it's Eagles fly into the end zone from 20 yards out, 7-0 New Albany. To the second quarter, 4th and goal for the Eagles. Brock Kidwell takes the direct snap, and you can't fight a tornado head on. Ty Hedges rips him down to the ground for a loss and a turnover on down. New Albany holds strong and forces a punt, but on the ensuing return, Roland Boyce is going to punch the ball loose, and Lancaster will fall on it for the recovery. Looking to catch the Eagles off guard, Trace Van Gundy is going to pass it, and he's going to hit Nazir Robinson in stride, and he will streak into the end zone untouched to tie it at 7. How would New Albany respond? With their first pass attempt of the game, Kidwell hits Jamison Rossler in the flats, and he's got all types of green grass ahead of him. He'll pick up a huge gain of 50 yards. 3rd and goal for the Eagles, but this time Kidwell won't be stopped as he fights his way in to make it 14-7. The Eagles added 3 more tutties in the second half as they get the win 34-20.
A big win for New Albany as they moved to 4-0 on the season. What was it about the Eagles' approach tonight that made them able to come out with the win?
Well, Nick, something that the Eagles aimed to do from the start of this game was to not allow Lancaster to play their type of game. As I mentioned last week, the Golden Gales are an option offense that love to run the ball. The problem they had this game was that New Albany was a run-heavy offense as well, so their defense was prepared to stop the run. They forced Lancaster to throw the ball a lot more than they were hoping for. And while Trace Van Gundy had a great game, throwing for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns, it changed how Lancaster had to play. That was a result of great game planning by the Eagles and their coaching staff.
Now you mentioned that New Albany is run-heavy offense as well. How did their rushing attack fare in this matchup?
The Eagles leaned heavily on their run game, throwing just 5 times in the game, but boy, oh boy, did they put up some numbers on the ground. As a team, they ran for 297 yards. The crazy part, that's their lowest total of the season. On average, this team rushes for over 310 yards per game. Jaden Garnes was the top man for the Eagles. He picked up 158 yards and 2 scores, those being from 50 and 39 yards. Christian Manville had 2 rushing touchdowns on the night as well. Add in Kidwell's score in the second, and that is 5 rushing touchdowns for the Eagles offense. The rushing attack is the biggest reason the Eagles are off to their best start since 2013. With the win, New Albany moves to 4-0 in the season. With Pickerington Central's overtime loss to Pickerington North, the Eagles are now the only undefeated team left in the Ohio Capital Conference.
Trimble and Waterford are set to square off on Saturday in a game that could decide the winner of the TVC Hawking. I'm joined by reporter Zach Paquette. And Zach, why don't you break this one down for us?
Yeah, Nick, everyone knows that Trimble and Waterford are a run-dominant team, but this game could come down to who can throw the ball better. Tabor Lackey and Trimble defeated Waterford 14-0 last season in a game where Lackey threw 3 interceptions. There were times in the game when Lackey would force balls into coverage or just miss wide open receivers. But the improvement has shown this season. This is my favorite throw from Lackey in the NY game from week 1. 4th and goal, and while on the run, he delivers a perfect ball to Austin Weiser. The pass was incomplete, but the ball was in a spot that only Weiser could catch it, and it was a perfectly designed play that came up just short. And as the game went on, Lackey took what the defense gave him and didn't force any balls down the field, and he let the playmakers make plays.
Switching sides now, what can you tell us about Waterford's quarterback, Grant McCutcheon?
Last week, McCutcheon really impressed me with his play against Fort Fry. He has taken a huge step and is throwing the ball with so much more confidence. This play right here is my favorite play from him. He drops back, throws it, and finds Mason Heiss in the back of the end zone. Count him, 3 defenders in the area. Talk about threading the needle. But Nick, bottom line is this game could come down to which quarterback is better on Saturday night.
To see which quarterback will lead their team to victory, follow us on social media for post-game content from this huge TVC Hawking battle. Now we head to Vincent, where the Warren Warriors took on the River Pilots. Reporter Will Price was there to see all the action.
If you're a fan of offense, this was the game for you. There was plenty of scoring to go around. It was homecoming night for the Warriors, and this one was all about Jason Williams. First play for Warren, bobbled snap, but Williams corrals it and takes it around the edge. Mean stiff arm and another one there for good measure. Warriors right outside the red zone, and they'd go right back to Williams. He'd take it right up the middle and lower the boom on this defender, and he'd take it into the end zone, 7-0 just 2 minutes into the game. River wouldn't go away. Pilots quarterback Cable Isley takes the skies with a beautiful throw to Brody Lawlethan after a short touchdown run. It's 14-10. But the Warriors would have an answer play fake by quarterback Trent Taylor, and he'd air it out to Dennis Petty, who brings it down in traffic, 21-10 Warren. But Williams was just too much. Here he takes the swing pass from Taylor, makes a man miss right away, and he goes right up the sideline. He got it done today as a runner and a receiver. Foot race with Pilot defenders, and they track him down after 75 yards. The Warriors had 40 first half points and took this one 54-24.
Wow, 54 points for the Warriors. That's an impressive performance.
The Warriors offense made it look easy all night, and it wasn't just Williams. The Warriors scored every time they touched the ball in the first half. With Williams running rampant, they were able to hit play action passes for big gains. Taylor found Petty for the long touchdown, and Brody Tate had a few big catches of his own. And Williams' partner in crime in the backfield, Taylor Bowers, was dangerous when he touched the ball as well. With less than a minute to go in the first half, he took a handoff almost 80 yards, making defenders miss. And look at the blockers down the field. It truly was a team effort in every facet of the game.
6 drives for 6 touchdowns. It doesn't get any better than that. Williams was the catalyst. What got him going?
He was a tackle-breaking machine all night. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, he found ways to gain extra yards. The River defenders had no answers. He was the star of the show from the opening play. He had almost 400 yards in week 1. If Williams can keep this up, the offensive line can keep giving him holes and giving the quarterback time, this Warren team will be tough for anyone to stop.
Incredible display of offense. Thank you for the great work, Will. Wow, what a night for Southeast Ohio football. Tons of action from all around the region. Let's get the fans at home caught up with all the scores from the games that Gridiron Glory covered. We start with 2 games you saw highlights of on the show earlier. In our game of the week, Granville came out on top in the battle of the unbeatens in Licking County. Ironton then got their chance to play in front of a regional powerhouse in Moeller. Unfortunately, the Fighting Tigers couldn't find any more last-second magic as they lose their first game of the season, 25-7. No shame in losing to a team like Moeller. The Fighting Tigers fought hard for the Southeast Ohio. Finally, West Muskegon is still unbeaten. They win a crazy back-and-forth contest with New Lexington. Be sure to catch those highlights on our social media pages. Along with West Muskegon, Piketon is also 4-0 this season. A close conference victory over Zane Trace shows just how competitive the SVC will finally be this season. Now finally, Portsmouth West came to Wellston and blew out the Golden Rockets. Tough loss for Wellston as they start TVC Ohio play against Alexander. And well, we've made it to the end, and what a week it was for high school football. We'll have more for many weeks to come, so I can't wait to see you back here at 11:30 next week. Follow us on all of our social medias to see all the action, and remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
Okay, you were good. We started a little late, so we rushed you at the end. You know what I mean?